Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo, and if you clicked on the video, you know what it is. This is going to be something to add on to my Mecha Monday slot. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm a bit ahead on Full Metal Panic, and so I've got some time on Monday to do things. It is not currently Monday. It's Wednesday, but I'm a little off on timing and scheduling and stuff, just because YouTube was down for a period of time last night, which is crazy. It's like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, YouTube is down. It's all over. Um so Ava. Yeah, we're doing Ava. Evangelion. Pretty cool. Um let's talk about me and Ava really quick. Encoding overloaded. Okay. Yeah, so slow down. I gotta I can't do this render job at the same time that I'm recording, but if I drop this render job down to 10 frames per second, I think it'll go. It'll only take like 2 hours to render a 40-minute video, but that's okay. It's sort of something I can put as a background task now. Yeah, good. Okay, so that's only taking 20% of my CPU. Good. Good, very good. Thank you. And then my two OBS processes that are running are taking like 30% of my CPU. I'm not overclocked right now because when I overclock, my render program is more likely to crash. Sucks. I gotta figure that out, or like find out what's breaking in the render program, or like get different editing software. But I'm getting so used to the one that I'm using. It's not even really meant as editing software, but it's so good for it. I'm using DaVinci Resolve 15 because it's free and good. Um, but like I don't have Final Cut or Premiere or whatever other things, Sony Vegas or whatever other things. Vegas is for FX. Whatever other things people do, I'm just sort of learning as I go. I'm putting the pieces together. Tea. Warm tea feels good in my belly. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of layered up. It's kind of chilly in here. Okay. So, me and Ava. I told you before, and I'm going to tell you again, I will never fake reactions to anything. I'll never lie about what I've seen and what I haven't. Ava is something that I have seen, at least part of. I honestly do not know how much of this I've seen. I know that I have not seen the whole thing. We're talking original Neon Genesis Evangelion. I have not seen the whole thing. I have seen part of it. It was one of the first anime that I watched, and if you are an anime fan, which I assume you are, given that you're watching my channel, that's probably not the best idea. So I watched this when I was a little baby boo, a little baby Teeaboo, as far as my anime journey went, because it's one of those things that gets recommended everywhere, right? People recommend Ava, and it's sort of thoughtless to do so, because Ava is something that you don't want to jump into something like this. But on most major recommendation lists and forum posts about recommendations for anime, people will include Ava, and they'll include it for new anime watchers and old. It's one of those things that gets recommended along with the classic recommendations like Code Geass, Death Note. Yeah, they're classic recommendations, and Ava is one of them for good reason. But in the same way that you wouldn't show Well, you could, but you wouldn't show Akira to somebody unprepared. You you shouldn't show Ava to somebody unprepared because it can turn people off. And it didn't turn me off to anime, thank goodness. Obviously, I'm still here, but I didn't get into it, and I was a little too young and a little too inexperienced to get into it. I mean, my anime journey, if you will, sort of went um well, okay, first off, history on me. Uh During my childhood, my parents were quite strict when it came to media consumption. I was not allowed to consume any media whatsoever except educational programming. None. None. And I had no video games as a child. Ever. Never owned a Game Boy, never owned a Nintendo 64, never owned a GameCube. Um, Never. None of the above. Uh, Never, ever, ever. So, when I entered middle school and we got computers, yes, we had computers, we had laptops in middle school, at my middle school. They're the blocky Lenovo laptops and they had a flippy screen so that we could use them for writing and taking notes. Um, and they were a requirement for school, and we had to purchase them through the school. And it was a pretty big expense for my parents. It was not easy to get that. But when I got that laptop, I had for the first time a computer that was my own and therefore access to the interwebs and all the wonderful things that it has. Especially free, totally legal means streaming sites. And one of the first things that I watched on such a site, well, first off, I got really into old video games. Old video games because I figured out emulators and I figured out Nintendo 64 emulators. And so in school, when most people were taking notes on their computer or just like browsing the internet or something, I had Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time going, and I had a keyboard set up for it on my laptop keyboard, and I would play Ocarina of Time on my laptop keyboard. Or I would play Smash 64. Yes, Smash 64 with a keyboard on my school laptop. Um, yeah, I would do stuff like that. So I what happens when you prevent a child from experiencing a part of the world is as soon as they get outside of your control, they go all in. And that's what I did. That's what I did. And my grades suffered for it, and continued to suffer because I found my love for media, right? For consuming media, the exact thing that my parents didn't want me to have. Oh, you silly parents, you. Nice try. And now look at me. But I went all in and decided to make up for lost time, basically. So I had a Game Boy emulator, and I was playing the old Pokemons. Played through a bunch of them. Of the Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire generation is my favorite. And yeah, I had the Nintendo emulator. Played through Ocarina of Time too many times to count. Too many times to count. But the other thing was animation and TV. Like, TV was not something that I experienced. I experienced, like, old History Channel. Any of you remember old History Channel when it was actually about history? Yeah, stuff like Modern Marvels, like how it's made. Good shows that were actually informative. Old Discovery Channel, like real documentaries, real stuff, real educational programming. That's all I could watch. And so I read instead. I mean, I would watch educational programming. We would watch TV. We would watch History Channel or Discovery Channel, things like that, as a family when we were eating dinner and for a little bit afterward. But I would read, and I spent the majority of my childhood reading and reading fiction and nonfiction. A lot of nonfiction. I mean, when I was 7, my dad handed me here. I'll one sec. This Winston S. Churchill, A History of the English-Speaking Peoples. It is a quite large 4-volume set. Each volume is... How many pages we got in here? They're thin pages, so... And small type. Not the index. $4.99. It's 500 pages exactly in the first volume, and it's a few pages longer than the others. The Birth of Britain, The New World, The Age of Revolution, The Great Democracies. I was handed this during one summer when I was 7 years old going to summer camp, and I read it, the whole thing. And I've read it again since. It's actually really worth reading if you want a bit of insight into the history of the English-speaking peoples. The title is accurate. It's right on. It is the full history of from the Anglo-Saxons all the way up through World War II, I believe. Yeah. Last one is the Great Democracies. Yeah. Through the foundation of democracies. In depth on feudalism, in depth on just everything. Everything. Every detail of every battle that we have any historical anything on. So that's the kind of stuff I was reading at 7 and have been reading since. I love to read. I have not been reading enough recently, but I'm working my way through some Dostoevsky. Heavy stuff. But I also I have a penchant for science fiction, and sci-fi is the main genre of things that I love to read. Love to read. Favorite authors are probably my favorite is Charles Stross, who is alive, Canadian, and really cool. I follow him on Twitter. He's hilarious. Follow him on Twitter. He deserves your support. If you get a chance, read his book Accelerando. It is worth reading. That's all I'll say about Charles. So, anyway, him and Heinlein. That was finishing the download of all of EVA. I already had finished downloading episodes 1 and 2, which I'm going to watch right now. But all of it is now done, so nice. Which means that I can close this program and free up even more processor cycles. How wonderful. So, I read a lot, and I've read a lot. And of course, no human can read a significant portion of the written works that humanity has put out. We can only get a glimpse of the collective body of human knowledge. There's just no way. But I'd like to think that I've gotten at least my glimpse. So yeah, I read when I was a child. I didn't have access to TV or cartoons. Definitely no cartoons allowed. Or video games. Not allowed. So when I got that computer, Flash games, addictinggames.com, Congregate, those became standbys, along with Emu Paradise and picking up ROMs of old games that I should have experienced as a child and had some experience with just from like having sleepovers at other people's houses. There was this one kid and this trio of friends in like elementary school. And I would sleep over at his house occasionally. And his dad was a video game software engineer. So he was totally into gaming and a total geek and a total nerd. And so we would play like Kirby games and all kinds of stuff. So I had a little bit of an introduction, and of course I wanted more. Give me more. God. So I went all out and I found all that stuff. And all of this is leading up to I found TV and stuff too. And I didn't find normal TV very interesting. But there was one show. There was one show that really caught my attention and sucked me in, and it was Avatar The Last Airbender. And I would say it was the first anime that I watched. And yes, Avatar is anime, fuck you, fight me. If you don't know what that is, Mother's Basement has a video. It's called Avatar is Anime, Fuck You, Fight Me. Go watch that video. It makes the point better than I'm going to be able to make it, but let's just say I agree with it. But when I finished Avatar, and of course this was before Korra, years before Korra, when I finished Avatar, there was now a problem. There's nothing else like Avatar. There just isn't. There just isn't. There is nothing else like Avatar. So, when you go and you search things like Avatar, what you get are anime. And I went, anime? You mean like Naruto? Like Inuyasha? Anime. But the craving was there. I was desperate for something. Something. Kind of like Avatar. And I think the first things that I actually watched were Naruto and Bleach. I didn't get very far into Naruto. Bleach I ended up sticking with until Aizen was over, and then I was like, it's done. This show's over for me. I'm out. I'm out. This is getting absurd. But I binged and I binged and I binged. And then of course suddenly I was into anime. And so I started looking for recommendations. And I found all the classic recommendations. Death Note, knocked it out. Code Geass, loved it. Loved it to pieces. Knocked it out. Probably, I think I watched it twice, like, in a row. Knocked it out. Things like that, knocked them out. And then EVA. And this is what this is all building to. And then EVA. And it was different. If there's one word that I would use to describe what I remember about EVA, it would be atmospheric. It's not fast. It's not crazy. It's not edge of your seat the way that Death Note is. The characters aren't necessarily likable. You're not necessarily rooting for Lelouch, you know? Not necessarily rooting for Light or L. Or rooting for your shonen protagonist, Naruto or Ichigo? Ichigo. It's not necessarily like that. It's atmospheric. It's an art piece. It's a piece of art. And I don't think I was ready for it. I don't think I was ready for it. And at some point during the series, I don't know how far I got in. I really don't know. At some point, I just went, meh. I'm gonna watch something else. And I probably continued watching Bleach or some bullshit. Or, actually, you know what? At that point, I'm pretty sure that I found out about ecchi. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'm like 99% sure that at that point I was I was introduced to either History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi or Girls Bravo. It was one of those because I had a Filipino friend named Ray. Ray, man, I'm gonna like see if I can find him. I'm sure I've got his email or something and hit him up because he was one of my closer friends in like middle school. And he was one of the funnier guys that I have ever met in my life. And I think, if I remember correctly, he was my first anime friend who also liked anime. And he was really into Bleach. I know that. But Ray was really funny. He should be a comedian by now. If he's not, then he should be a comedy writer. Something like that. 'Cause he's a goof. But he's a pervy goof. Like that pervy goof character that's in some shows, that's him. Spot on. Except that the things he says are funnier than any of them. Too good to write. Anyway, I know that I remember at one point for his birthday, I bought him like a shitty replica Bankai of Ichigo's sword, like sharp replica, off of TrueSwords.com. I know that I did, and I got it shipped to him. I gave it to him for his birthday. And he freaked out. He was so happy. Pretty fun. But he, in his pervy goofy friend way, was like, "Hey, there's this thing. It's called Girls Bravo. You should watch it. Just, just don't tell anyone, but you should watch it." And so I went and I watched it, and I was like, "Woo! Boobs!" So yeah, that's probably what took over from Ava, right? Like, shame on me, you fool, baka. It's probably what happened. Anyway, I stopped watching it at some point. I remember very little of it. I remember some of the feel of it, some of the tone of it, and I think that's some of the more important stuff. I do remember a couple of plot points. Well, that's the other thing. You pick up stuff through osmosis when you're in the community and a watcher of shows, right? You pick up stuff through osmosis. For example, I am aware that the mechs are biomechanical, and I am aware that something about them is it's their blood or their spirit or something is the mother, generally the mother of the pilot. I'm aware of that. So, like, if that is a shocking moment, I'm not going to be that shocked by it because I'm aware of it. I'm not going into this totally blind. I have seen some portion of this series a long time ago, and I don't really remember it. This has been 25 minutes now that I'm recording of me telling you random things about my childhood and why it is that I am watching this and why it's not exactly a blind reaction. And if that seems excessive to you, it's because I just want to make it super clear to you exactly where I'm coming from on this series. I'm not totally blind. I know what that they're well, I don't know what they are, but I know that there are these things called angels and they're attacking. I know that Shinji, I think is his name, gets in a mech and fights them. I know that there are some girls. It's either Ray or May, and there's this other one in the red suit who everybody Rule 34s. Like, I know things and I know things through osmosis. I'm not blind. If you're cool with that, stick around. If you ain't cool with that, that's cool. But this reaction series probably won't be for you. It's all good. I just want to make sure that I'm on the up and up with you guys and that I keep my promise that I will never, ever, 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 ever deceive you in terms of what I have seen and what I haven't and how I react to things. I won't exaggerate my reactions. I will give you the genuine article in every way possible. Because I think that's important. I think that there is power in truth. It's as simple as that. I think that there is power in truth and honesty. And even if I were the best actor in the world, you would know. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you would know if I was faking it. And so I'm not going to. I have no reason to. You know, the only reason to would be to watch things that are so big name and would get lots of views. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I want to experience cool things. So Ava, we're gonna watch it. It's gonna be timer based. I will put a subs box as well. It's gonna be timer based. I've heard that it is pretty hardcore on the copyright, and for good reason. It's a work of art. If you want to watch along, and you can do so through official means or by purchasing this, do so. It probably deserves your support. If you want to watch along, and like me, do not have the means to do so through official means, I am using the Bankai 77 filtered versions. I went and I did some research on some different versions and different encodes that are available, and just looking at them, these are filtered. They're not the exact actual thing. They have some color correction done to them. And just looking at the stills in comparison, I think that this will make for a much more enjoyable experience for me. These are also formatted at 1440 by 1080 instead of 1920 by 1080. I believe that's the original aspect ratio. I've seen other people saying that they've re-encoded up to 1920 by 1080. I don't want that messed around with. I would rather stick with the original aspect ratio if this is the original aspect ratio. If y'all know that this is not the original aspect ratio, let me know as soon as possible and I will find a different version. Subs wise, I am using I'm using the English subs, and they are listed as the 2D4UTS ADV translation. I don't know if that's a good thing, if there is a better, more accurate translation out there, but that is the one that I've got attached to this video, and so that's the one that I'm going to use. Audio track, hold on, I'm just going to skip ahead slightly. No, I'm not watching this in dub. Nope, we are watching this in the original Japanese. If for any reason I should not be watching this in the Japanese sub, or in the original Japanese audio track with English subtitles, let me know. I would like to know that. I assume this is probably the way I want to watch it. Yeah. So, this is Gainax? Oh yeah, of course it is. I'm gonna shut up now. I've already talked too long. I had like 25 minutes of recording and now I've got like 3 more minutes. Okay. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Also, I believe it's Evangelion. I looked this up before going to this video, just to make sure. In the audio track, they say Evangelion. So, I'm assuming that's correct. It's a hard G, and it's Evangelion. That makes sense. It would be the Greek pronunciation of the source words. Yeah. So. Okay. Evangelion. What am I expecting? I told you, one word, atmospheric. I'm expecting artistic, slow, person-driven, character-driven, without telling us what's going on inside the characters' heads, but showing us through silence and expression and action. And I'm expecting a feel sort of like Akira, but an atmospheric experience. So, let's get into what is fairly universally considered one of the greatest anime of all time, which I have technically seen in the past part of at some point and remember very little of. Well, I've heard this before. I've seen it before. the intro, of course. I'm sorry to stop this so soon into it. I'll take out the thing with the timer and stuff, but there's something you need to see. If you don't give a shit about the subject matter of this, that's fine. Skip ahead a minute and 30 seconds. But I'm gonna watch this because now that I'm watching the actual thing, I really want to go and rewatch this trailer. I think I should be good to put this up. I don't think it'll be a problem. So you can see the thing, the title, but and you know, I this is in a lot of my videos. I play Smash. I love Smash Brothers Melee. I love it. I'm not very good at it. Also, if any of you play Smash, I'll make a net play and we can play together. If you're even mildly competent, you will crush me. I play Peach and Falco. Yeah. If you're even mildly competent, you will crush me, absolutely. But I love Smash, and I have for years. Yeah. So, this thing, if you like Smash, and you haven't seen this, where's Mewtwo King? They actually got him to do this! Was that caffeine? Is that Leppin's eye? Assuming that's the scene of the EVA. I'm sorry. I know it's a departure and it's so dumb, but like now let's watch the real thing. Countdown timer will be here. Oh, so they sped it up. Oh no, wait, maybe it just gets faster in the end. Okay, next, this Project Ava. Oh my god, they got the turn perfect. Man, it's frame by frame. That hair flip. I remember 2015 being a little bit different. Holy shit, this is beautiful. Gorgeous and stylized. Okay. Okay. All lines unavailable. Everything is cut off. Why is he there? Some grill? Oh, she's just standing there. That's our first angel. That was a great reflection. It's impervious to normal weapons, I'm sure. Zappa Zoop. Wow, right next to him. If you're wondering why I'm looking down, it's because I'm taking notes. And I'm just making sure that my lines don't run into each other. That's all. Whoa, those motion blurs on her hand. But it won't work. And I assume only guy in glasses knows the thing? Oh my god. That animation. Timestamp. What a foolish child I was. Okay, so he knows. Absolute terror field, I know that. They're gonna try to nuke it? Oh. That won't work. I'm just assuming that won't work. It reminds me of the shockwave in Akira. Man, those reflections. Lucky it was on its side. Really detailed beat up. Katsuragi Misato. Did you just give it extra power? Mmm. Gills? She's using her attractiveness to pull him in, huh? This is great. The whole background fading out. 33 more loan payments. That's not good. So you need to end these things as quickly as possible, or their threat just grows. So this is our intro. Is that Dad? Hair color's right. Yeah. It is our purpose. Gloves. I get the feeling he's not a good person. Another spare. So he's an object to him. Yep. You're gonna be a pilot. Mmm. Upside down. Wow. Are they gonna see something they shouldn't? She's a doctor. Oh, okay. She's a doctor. And she's the captain. Oh, wow, that was awesome. Elevator. 11:30-ish. Third child. Re, 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 re. Yeah, that hand. Wow, I actually missed that until the very last frames of that. Wow. Ooh. Synthetic human. So, I'm aware. Even her. Anything for the goal. Because you're the only one. Because he has no choice. What will assuage his doubts? Wow, the music. So his empathy for Rei will be the reason that he chooses to step in instead of her? The Eva moves independently. I'm aware that it's his mother. Damn. She is fucked up. Yeah, so he's because of her. So without a plug there, it can't send signals, which means it was an autonomous nervous system response to protect him. No worries. LCL. Whoa. This is so well thought out. This whole facility, the entire procedure is all thought out. So we get our first triumphant mecha. Is that Rei floating there? Okay, so I don't need to see the preview. It's actually spoiling things. Like, come on, hey, preview, bad preview. Oh, you silly child me. Dropping this show. You silly. You silly. Okay. So, let's go through this. There were a number of specific shots that I want to frame by frame. And so I'll put the video up full for those. No audio, and there won't be enough video for Content ID to have problems. So it should be fine. But I haven't taken this many notes for an episode since Lane, which says something. First thing that I want to do is I want to check when this was produced, because I do not remember the year that this was produced. EVA? 95 to 96. 24 minutes per episode, 26 total episodes. And then a bunch of afters. End of, Death and Rebirth, all that stuff. Okay. Hideaki Anno did basically everything. Producer, director, script, storyboard, mechanical design, key animation. Yeah. Basically everything. Other things that he's done. I know that I've seen something that he's done. Oh, right, Furikuri. Some other stuff. What is this? What is this? Right, Grave of the Fireflies. Of course. Macross. All of the EVAs. He's the creator and everything of it. Yeah, okay. He's a king. He's a king. Cool. But, yeah, 95 to 96. When was Lane? 98 to 98. Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, this, as far as I know, set the standard for the more philosophical Mecha Shonen show. Created the genre practically. See why? This at that time period would have changed everything. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. It's stunning. It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's gorgeous, and it's directed incredibly. So let's just run through what I've noted. Hanks, why was he there? Some grill in the picture. And we get a flash of Ray just standing there. Angel attack. There were cool reflections in. We now know it's Ikari, his father's eyes or his glasses. Those were cool. It's impervious to all their shit. So first thing that I timestamped that I want to look at is around 4 minutes. Yep, I just nailed it. Just nailed it right there, and we're gonna frame by frame. Oops, I don't want random. Okay, so they're shooting it with everything they've got, and it's not doing anything. And they're positioned, they're right underneath it in that car. Big booms. Yeah. Every frame has these motion blurs built into it on her hand. I'm glad that I caught that while it was going. But like with the frame rate that we're working with, that adds so much speed, so much velocity to her actions of gear shifting. Makes it much cooler. Shaky cam, shaky cam. She's pulling out. Yep. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay. They nuke it with an N2 mine. I assume it's a nuke equivalent, but it doesn't appear to have radiation problems. Okay. And then there's the car shockwave moment. And I want to, once we watch this, oh, it's, the car shockwave moment is before this. No, it isn't, it's after the N2 mine. And so, that's another thing that I want to see, is this rocket. Because, fucking Sakuga out the butt. Yep, there we go. This rocket. Rocket goes, hits, crumples, and we see this field, which I assume has to do with the AT field thing, and it grips it and crumples it, but then how does it happen? It just squeezes. Oh, and the rocket is still going. Right. So it's still got force behind it from the back, pushing it forward into its hand, and that's why its arm sort of bunches up. And then it shatters around the fingers. Okay, that was too fast. Crumple, and then it pushes it back slightly, and then the rocket's still going. Starts to really... Oh wow, there are quite a number of frames of it going back and forth. And then it starts to crumple. And it just pushes through. All these pieces fly off, all of this debris, and then it flashes all the way through. So it's got... just splits the rocket down the center, and we can see some of the tech inside. There's a fuel line right here that's been severed and is on fire now. Yeah. And it's got fire coming out of both ends, and it's propelling itself around a bit. And the other end of it is spewing fuel. It runs out of fuel in that line to burn, which is pretty cool. And it sort of like covers its arm, almost like it's plate mail. It's kind of amazing. And then the rocket stops, and then it explodes. And wow, what an explosion it is. Yep, okay. And then call the line. She's like, nope, this is bad. They shoot it with the thing. There's this, and then there's the shock wave. There we go. Whoosh. I want to see that frame by frame for sure. Okay, shaky cam on the main explosion site. We get this wall of dust and shock. And the wall coincides with the barrier, so it gives us a kind of a line to look at. And it sweeps over the vehicle and is buffered around it like a wind tunnel. Wow, so much detail put into that. It's like, it's fuzzy and grainy so that it can be done, and because it needs to be for the shot, because of the light and everything going crazy, and because our field of view would be obscured by this dust as it goes past. So, makes perfect sense. But the shockwave passes, and then the car flips. It like rolls a little bit, and then it slides, and then it flips. Excellent, excellent. And then we see them rolling around at the speed of sound. Rolling around at the speed of sound. So the car flips. We've got her name and his name. They tell each other. We see the angel like breathing or doing undulating gills, which kind of makes sense because we first saw it underwater. Yeah. She's protecting him but for a reason. She's doing it like protecting him is my mission, not because she cares. Though I assume that she does care to some degree and will grow to care quite a bit more. She steals a bunch of batteries, and his um his feelings about that, like, is it really okay to steal these batteries, are they allow us they allow her to give some character stuff on herself. She's like, it's fine, I'm an international government official, so that's a clever way of putting that in there. It's regenerating, so angels regenerate, and then we get our introduction to Nerve, and it is Papa's place. It is Papa's organization, and we are confirmed that beard and glasses guy with reflections in his glasses is Papa. He's got white gloves, which is but he's not a good dude as far as I can tell, or at the very least, not exactly caring. He has not seen his son for 3 years. We find that out a little bit later. And they start talking about Unit 1. And he has a little conversation about with the military guy who he's talking to. Don't worry, another spare will be delivered. And the way he says it is, Shinji is an object. He's a tool. That is all. This guy does not care about human life because, I assume, because he has gone for this mindset of ends over means. And we'll get into that more at the end of this page of notes. But I have a feeling that's going to be a pretty big deal in the show. Ends versus means is a classic philosophical debate, and it's exemplified by two philosophers, John Stuart Mill, the utilitarian, and Immanuel Kant, the deontologist. The deontologist. And the basics of their arguments are, Mill produced a philosophy that was entirely focused on ends of action and of purpose. So physical, like actual consequences and ramifications of actions are what determine their morality. So generally speaking, you can figure out different ways of quantifying it, but generally speaking, what it is you go off the basis that suffering is bad, and we don't like to suffer. Happiness is a little bit more difficult to quantify, but pain's a little bit easier to quantify. There's actually a line from Jordan Peterson, a Canadian philosopher who's very controversial and we won't get into, but there's a line from him that's quite good. He says, I call him a philosopher. He's a psychologist by training, but he is a philosopher, for sure. Nobody denies their own pain. So pain is the ultimate thing. It's bad, and creatures exhibit pain to varying extents and can act on that pain in varying degrees. Sentient creatures to the highest degree that we are aware of, at least. So Mill created this sort of idea of a util as a unit of measure of human pain pleasure stuff, or sentient creature pain pleasure. And so if your action produces some number of utils, positive utils for some number of people, then it's probably a good action. And if it produces suffering for some number of people, then it's probably a bad action. And if you're weighing two bad actions, then the one that produces the least suffering for the least number of people is probably the one you should go with, and the one that produces the most happiness for the most number of people is the one you should go with. Definitions on this stuff get weird and crazy, and like there are all kinds of ways to do it, but that's the dead basics of utilitarian philosophy. Kant disagreed and came up with his own philosophy, and his deontological argument is probably best defined by what's called the categorical imperative, which is that actions are right or wrong, period, and any action that you should do, you should be able to do and apply as a principle to any circumstance. So it doesn't matter what the result is, it's the means by which you achieve that result, they are important. And as far as I'm concerned, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And it's this is something that you might hear me talk about in other videos, but I believe that truth is generally found in the middle of two opposing ideas. When you find two opposing ideas that click, and you find a way to click them into place and find a middle balanced ground between them, you find truth. And I believe that that's a fundamental principle of the universe, and it is, I mean, particles are true, they are real, they exist. And they exist because they are balanced between positive and negative energy, or matter and antimatter, whatever you want to think about it as, whatever you want to call it. Their strings are in harmony, and they are balanced. They are compromises. Everything that exists is a compromise. And so everything that exists is true, and is true because it is the right compromise. I think that the compromise is somewhere between means and ends, and it is situational. There are classic examples used for utilitarianism and the categorical imperative. The classic counterexample to the categorical imperative is if a child comes to your door, right? There's a child comes to your door, is all beat up, and the child says, "There's an axe murderer coming for me. He's killed my parents already, and he's coming to kill me. Will you hide me?" And you say, in this instance, you say, "Yes, I will save you." Okay? And so you hide the child away in your home, and you close and lock the door. A couple minutes later, the axe murderer knocks on your door. You open it, the axe murderer, for whatever reason, you open it. The axe murderer says, "Is the child inside your house?" Now you have two options. You can lie, or you can not lie. Under Kant's categorical imperative, lying is always a bad thing. It's never good to lie. And so in this instance, you would not lie, and you would tell the axe murderer, "Yes, the child is in your house," and the axe murderer would go and find the child and kill him. Utilitarian would say, "No. No, child. What child? What are you talking about?" Because telling the axe murderer that the child is there will cause suffering and death. And the other thing is, it will remove that child's ability to feel pleasure for the rest of its life, right? And so that is immeasurably more utils lost than could be gained by any other consequences of you lying or not lying to that child, or to the axe murderer. What's the answer? There isn't really one. My answer is you spit in the face of the false dichotomy, the false decision that you've been presented with. Those are not your only two options. Your other option is to grab something nearby and kill the axe murderer, or beat him to a pulp, to prevent him from causing further harm. It's a compromise in the middle, right? And it's not really a compromise in the middle. It's a third option. It's one that's not explicitly stated in, don't take the axe murderer's word for it. Don't let someone else set the bounds of your actions. That's my answer to it. Anyway, that was a weird off the wall, but the whole point of talking about this is that these two major philosophies are warring, and they have been since they were invented or developed, and they are in direct opposition with each other, and it appears to me that they are written deep into the show. And the reason that I talked about this was because the father is all about the ends. He has taken, he's a man with a burden, for sure. He has taken the burden of protecting humanity upon himself, and in doing so has lost his humanity. Because when you take on a burden like that, you end up acting as a god, in a sense. And so you lose your humanity a little bit. And empathy for individuals like his son, cannot compute. It cannot compare in his utilitarian mind to the entire existence of humanity, right? Which makes sense. If sentient beings are those that can feel pleasure or pain, and all sentient beings are destroyed by these angels, then there is no possibility for future utils. But the problem is, in doing this, he's being untrue. He's betraying his humanity in order to save humanity. And so the means by which he's doing this, using his son as a tool, using other people as tools, referring to them as replacements. You know, Shinji says he wouldn't send a letter if he didn't need something. He's ignoring the means by which he goes through this, and he's causing suffering by doing so. And you can say, well, the suffering that he's causing by doing so is a drop in the bucket, but he's still actively causing suffering that does not need to be caused, and it wouldn't be caused if his mindset were different. He could still take the same actions with a different mindset and cause less suffering. So that's interesting. Another spare will be delivered. Shinji's just an object to him. We get this this gorgeous introduction to this nerve facility, this upside-down city, and she calls it a fortress for all mankind, which is pretty cool. And he refers to it as, I think, a geofort, so geological, like underground. Cool. Then there's a timestamp for 11:30-ish for the elevator scene, because that was quite a good one. Let's see. It's right before the reveal of... Yeah, okay. The grill. Okay, here we go. Her reflection in the elevator is replaced right overlaid. Like the hairline matches up, the chin line matches up. Standing in exactly the same position. So it's effectively a wipe between their faces. And she's shocked by it. Yeah. Pretty dope. It's a really good shot. It's really clever directing. Yeah. Gives me... There's gonna be a lot of those. A lot of interesting choices in animation, which is great. He's referred to as the third child. I'm sure that Rei is one of the previous children. I'm not sure. I assume. 3 years since since they've seen each other. We get that dark room, and then the flash of light comes on and reveals the Eva, which is just as shocking to us as it is to Shinji. It's like, whoa. Oh, there was one other thing. I'm not sure. I think it might have been in the elevator. Or it's in the tram. In the train. No, I'm not seeing it. It must be further on. Ah, okay, it's here. Yeah, there in the background. We've got this hand. And I didn't notice it until like the end of this scene. But there it is. So they're traveling through the tank that's holding the Eva, I'm assuming. Great way to show us some scope and scale. Yeah, because we see that it's a fluid that it's in is that same purple goo. Yeah, and there's its hand. I believe it's in the same... No, it's a different hand. Okay. might be its other hand. It might any number of things. Could be any number of things. Yeah, here we go. Completely dark. Just that red light on the door, and then the flash. Hello. It's ultra secret, super secret weapon. A synthetic human. Ray can't do it. Not with this unit. Can only do it with 0-0. So I think that has to do with the bloodline thing. It being the sourced from his mother's DNA or something like that. Or her spirit is in it. It's something like that. I remember that. Remember that much. Or I picked it up at some point through osmosis. I really don't remember. Yeah. And let's see. Where did we get the part where we were talking about anything for the goal? Yeah, correct. It's been a while. Ozon. Still in cryostasis. How could we move out? You're not planning on using Unit 1? Yes, he is. Ray can't do it yet. Yep, 1's just been delivered. You will pilot it. It's impossible, it's impossible. This is our ultimate priority. The ends justify the means. Ever heard that before? That's a utilitarian phrase. Kant would roll over in his grave and say, no, they don't. Depends on the means, and it depends on whether you could do this. You know, because the categorical imperative would say, if you're going to do this, you should be able to do it as a general principle. You should be able to force children to fight with their lives on the line in order to protect yourselves. It's a tough argument to make. You know exactly why. You're asking me to fight and take this thing? No way, can't do it. Yeah, but no one else can. And then he says, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not, leave. If you're not going to be a tool, get the fuck out. The angel starts attacking. There's no time to think. No time to really decide. No time to actually think it over. And then she tells him, don't run from your father and don't run from yourself. So, sort of a destiny duty type thing. They try to wake up Ray, and I found a piece of this conversation kind of interesting. Can we use her, once again, as a tool? And his response, she isn't dead. You know, the tool's not broken yet. Keep hammering, keep going, till it breaks. They bring her in, she's all fucked up. And the angel is attacking, some stuff falls, and the EVA moves independently to protect him. And from what I understand, / remember / have picked up through osmosis, that should be literally impossible. Like, the plug that goes in takes the place of what would be the spinal column, and there should be no pathway for signals to go from the EVA's brain to its body to make it move, which I think is a protective measure because I don't think the EVAs are happy about anything. I don't know. I also don't know if they're able to express that, but if they had free reign or they had the ability to move themselves, they wouldn't need a, what do they call it, like a signal blocking plug. They're keeping them contained. So lots of foreshadowing there. Like, what happens if you don't put in the signal blocking plug and you let the EVA have free reign? It's a super powerful ultra mech in your super important fortress. Could be bad. And then also foreshadowing that it is his mother in there. I'm aware of that. I know that much. I don't know how it's done. I don't know much, but I know it's that. He holds Ray as she's just like gasping and like freaking out because her IV is out and she is not in a good state. She's just been woken up, I assume, from cryo. So not doing so well. But it's interesting that even in that state, when he commands her, when Papa Ikari commands her, you will fight again. She's like, okay. Just deadpan, like, duty. Almost robotic. We get our first sight of LCL, this semi-transparent, or this translucent fluid that you can breathe. Interesting. And it probably helps with synchronization or something. And then, yep, unless we defeat the angels, we have no future. It's the last thing I wrote down. And that is, once again, this is the ultimate end. This is end of humanity type thing. And the reason, I'll just tell you that the reason that I'm aware of these philosophical things is because in high school I was a debater. Policy debate and Lincoln Douglas. So Lincoln Douglas is one-on-one debate and mostly around morals and philosophy, and policy debate is two-on-two debate, much longer, much faster, and it's mostly around actual real-world ramifications of stuff. But both types of arguments, utilitarian and deontological, come into play in both types of debate. Specifically in policy, utilitarianism is a big deal because the foundation of almost every policy debate round is well, the structure of a debate case is claim, warrant, impact. So you make a claim, you give evidence to support that claim, and then you say what the impact of that claim is. And the general way that this is done in policy debate is claim, if we do this action, it will lead to nuclear war. Warrant, bunch of sources that link together a line of reasoning that says, for example, if we spend $1 billion doing this thing, you know, moving troops around or putting more troops here or whatever, if we spend this money, it will destabilize the economy. If we destabilize the economy, that will lead to financial collapse in the world. If we get financial collapse in the world, that will lead to a strongly increased likelihood of nuclear war. And then the final impact that is often implied in policy debate, because you cut out anything you can so that you can fit in more evidence, the final impact is usually nuclear war leads to the extinction of humanity. Extinction of humanity is the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen because it is irreparable. Like, it is better for 7 billion out of the 7 point whatever billion people on the planet to die because we're not doing this action than it is to cause all of the people to die because we can never, ever, ever come back. And we lose everything. And all sentient creatures are gone. Sucks. So you can see how, if that's the foundation of almost every debate case, and it is, because it's the biggest impact that you can have, so you have to argue it at the same level, right? You either have to say, yes, but if we don't do this, blah, 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 nuclear war, so we have to now, we're leading to the same impact, now we have to weigh the likelihood of different things happening, and the quality of our evidence, and the rationality of our claims. Or you can take the other route, and you can say, the way you're arguing this is wrong, because you're focused entirely on the ends, and you are doing bad things to prevent bad ends, and saying that the ends justify the means. And that switches it to a philosophical debate about ends and means. This is why I know about these things, at least a bit. And why I instantly caught on to that. Unless we defeat the angels, we have no future. That is classic. Extinction of humanity outweighs everything. Well, that's debatable. It is debatable. Let me see, just make sure there weren't any other timestamps that I really wanted to look at. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, EVA, episode 1. If you couldn't tell, I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm sad that younger me didn't get as into it as I'm going to be getting now. But younger me wasn't quite as philosophical and mature as I am now. And so, perfect. I'm very glad that I get to watch it with essentially fresh eyes at this point. And I'm even more glad that I get to share it with you. So, if you've enjoyed this, let me know. Talk to me in the comments. Please don't spoil anything. Because I do not know how far into the story I have gotten, I mean, anything that I have already said in this video is fair game. We can talk about it as his mother, but actually let's not talk about that because I'm still not clear on the details. Let's stay away from spoilers if at all possible. Because I really want to experience this as fresh as I can, given what I know and what I've seen. Okay? It's beautiful, really is, especially for the time. But I don't even need to put that qualifier in there. Like, it's gorgeous. Another thing that I wanted to mention is it's interesting to me just how strongly, because SSSS Gridman is something that I've been watching. It's interesting to me just how strongly it parallels it. And the reason is obvious. It's not that this is copying Gridman, it's that the mecha shonen formula with characters that actually are characters originates here. This is the seed of it. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And it's going to be interesting to watch these two shows in parallel and watch sort of a modern redo. Not really a redo, but like a modern example of the same genre at the same time that I'm watching the baseline, the bar setter. That's cool. That's actually really quite interesting. It's unfortunate that Gridman doesn't come out on Mondays, because I would love to watch it on Mondays. But I'm gonna watch Gridman when it comes out. Anyway, I'm gonna watch episode 2 now, and I'm doing that for the same reason that I've been watching episode 2 of everything. I need to be one ahead so that there's one up on early access on Patreon. If you want it, it will be there. I will upload it at the same time I upload this one. This one will be immediately public on YouTube, and episode 2 will be a week early access, okay? So if you're just watching my YouTube channel, you'll be seeing episode 2 in 1 week from today. Well, actually, no, it'll be a little bit less than a week, because I will put it out on Monday, because that's when I'm going to actually schedule this. I wanted to get into this. I've got the time right now. Bunny Girl Sama aired, or Bunny Girl Senpai aired, well, now it's been like an hour and a half, a little while ago, and so I'm going to watch that before I watch episode 2 of this, but I'm going to watch episode 2 of this, and it will be up on early access for Patreon, and then next week it'll be 3 on early access, and 2 will be out, okay? So if you're just following on YouTube, it'll be weekly. If you want to get right up with it and talk to me right as I'm doing it, and, comment about what's going on directly in the episode that I'm watching before I watch the next one, Patreon. I'll just mention this here in case you didn't see the other video, I've folded the $10 tier down into the $5 tier. All of the $10 rewards are now in the $5 tier, so any full-length timer-based reactions that I put out are, for shows that I normally do as highlights, are available at the $5 tier. Just letting you know. Anyway, this has been Neon Genesis Evangelion, Episode 1, the sort of rewatch, and I'm thrilled. It's really good, and it's a TBD top tier anime for a reason, and the reason is clear. It's going to have lots and lots and lots and lots of interesting stuff going on, interesting themes, interesting topics, and interesting philosophy. So I can't wait to dig into it. As you can tell, I've got an hour and a half of I've actually got more than that now, because I had the like half an hour of intro stuff that I did, and now I've got an hour and a half of footage. So there's a lot here. I'm gonna have to edit this down maybe a little bit, but it'll be timer based from here on out. Yeah, this has been EVA episode 1. I've been Teeaboo. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.